taking on a challenge, taking on something iconic and making it into our own achievement. This is what we did in 2014 when we decided to produce the very famous Blackadder Goes Forth World War I episodes as a live performance. And I am so glad we were brave enough to work with Edmund, George, Darling, Melchett, Bob, Flash Hart, and of course, poor Baldrick. There had been concerns that this series might trivialise the events of 1914-18, but now it's a classic. Although it's driven by the Blackadder trademark satirical comedy and a comment on the nature of war, it was so unexpectedly moving that it was included in a BBC Two Armistice Day tribute later on. So this was a very big mountain for us to climb. I had wanted to stage a play which was linked to the centenary of World War I. My granddad had been in the trenches and used to tell me his experiences. Also, we had in the family a last letter written in pencil by my granny's brother a few days before the Battle of the Somme, in which he was killed. However, we were undecided. We felt that some of the very moving classic stage plays were so tragic that we might not get an audience along. Then one of our younger members, and ardent Blackadder fan, suggested Blackadder Goes Forth, and he managed to track down the TV scripts and the information about permissions to perform. Peter Bailey, wherever you are now, I thank you for this. So, deep breath then, and jump into the challenge of creating our own versions of those famous characters and staging lots of short scenes. Obviously, they'd been devised for television. We made use of lighting and music to create fluid transitions. I don't mind saying I was very nervous about this, as I'd never staged a TV script before. But we had fantastic support from the Queen's Hall technical team, plus a brilliant set built by David Nixon, and the effects were magical. Richard Curtis, one of the writers, has said, "The first 100 pages of any book about the World War are hilarious." And then, of course, everybody dies. Really, the satirical one-liners, the put-downs and the hilarious twists of the plot were a joy to work on. Melchett: "You fancy an evening at a concert party, Blackadder?" Blackadder: "Well, frankly, sir, I'd rather spend my evening on top of a stepladder in no man's land smoking endless cigarettes through a luminous balaclava." Baldrick's dead slug chaplain moustache. Melchett in love with George disguised as Georgina. "Don't let him shag you on the balcony." The comedy brought everyone together, and the team spirit and collaboration was a wonderful feeling. But then, of course, everybody dies. And the piteous horror of that iconic final scene where they go over the top, how could we come near to that? I knew that the element that was on our side here was that we had a local audience who were now watching real people from their own community. We see the names on the cenotaph, but now people were seeing lads that they had got to know during the preceding 90 minutes, young men who could be, or who actually were, their sons, brothers, cousins, neighbours, and it worked. From the quiet scene where you see the four young men in the moment of awareness that they are shortly going to die, we used Ravel's Pavane for a Dead Infanta to create the swelling music of doom, and you could feel the audience change its response. We took Blackadder, Baldrick, Darling and George over the top, high up behind the set, looking out to the audience as they faced death, accompanied by the slowed down final version of the Blackadder theme. We used part of Lawrence Binion's famous poem For the Fallen, backed by Elgar's Nimrod. We had terrific lighting effects as the four faces gradually faded and very slowly disappeared. Really gone. There were tears in the audience, then applause. Then the audience fell silent as we played the last post as the cast appeared for the curtain call and bows. Isn't it fantastic that we can do things like this as a community event? That we can work with others and get really close up to great theatrical moments. There is nothing like the feeling of achievement you get doing live theatre.